So folks, how we doing? You are very welcome to the very first episode of Behind the Walls with Pete and
Ferg.
Pete and Ferg. So what we are going to do here is we're going to make your energy upgrade easy. We're going to try and demystify what's happening in the industry, what's happening when it comes to energy upgrade. We're going to keep it simple, we're going to keep it transparent, and we're going to try and make sure that everybody out there can fully understand what they're entitled to, what they can apply for grant-wise, what they can do to their home to improve the energy efficiency of their home, and lots more in the middle as well. So we're starting off at the top. We brought in the main man. We have Mr. Ciaran Byrne from the SEAI. So Ciaran, you're very welcome.
Cheers, thanks very much, and nice to come to the first episode of the podcast.
Absolutely.
Don't stack it up or put me under pressure now in any way. You know?
So Ciaran, we know who you are, but let's tell the people who you are, and tell us all the money that you've got that you're going to give us.
Yeah, well, wow. We'll start the easy bit first. I'm Ciaran Byrne is my name, and my official job title is the Director of National Retrofit within the SEAI. My job, ostensibly, is to help deliver the National Residential Retrofit Plan. And for your viewers and listeners, we have a plan, a government plan that says by 2030 we have to decarbonise our houses. And decarbonise, big fancy word, it means stop burning stuff. To do that, we have to wrap them up and make them much more thermally friendly, insulate them, and then ultimately change our heating system from a carbon-based one, which is oil or gas, to an electrical one, such as a heat pump. And we've got grant funding across a range of schemes to help homeowners that you guys can talk about to do that and to make it simple.
Excellent stuff. So the SEAI is a government-backed entity, I suppose you call it?
It's a state agency, yeah. Just in terms of where it comes, we're a state agency, and just for your viewers and listeners that mightn't know, state agency report into a government ministry, and we have basically a minister, Minister Darragh O'Brien's our current minister, and the ministry sets the policy and provides the money, and we kind of basically do the doing and support the industry to get out there and retrofit. And
then pour out humble builders like Pete the Builder here, and we have one-stop shops like EnviroBid. Ferg, my man here, is working on this on a daily basis, absolute expert in the field as well. So Ferg, do you want to throw out a question there to Ciaran?
Yeah, I suppose there's a lot of money to be spent to achieve these targets in 2030, and just for homeowners in general, what kind of targets are we at the minute?
Yeah, so we've got basically it comes in two parts, and they're called carbon budgets. So you'll hear this stuff being talked about in the media. First carbon budget period is up to the end of 2025, and the second period is from 25 to 30. And so all we've been doing in our retrofit plan is we spent the first couple of years, and we've been working together, Ferg, on this, is getting the skills in place, getting the background in place, getting the awareness in place, and delivering retrofits. And the second carbon period, we really have to ramp up what we're doing significantly. So we have a target of about 120,000 homes for B2 or B2 equivalent by the end of 2025, and we'll be there or thereabouts for that. The real point is the second period, we have to really, really increase those targets and deliverables for 2030. So what we're doing, and this is where it kind of gets a bit technical, we have to reduce carbon emissions from 7 megatons to about 4 megatons from the residential sector. How that's going to be done is through retrofitting 500,000 homes. So most people know about the home number, and we also have to install 400,000 heat pumps. It's not really the homes or the heat pumps, it's what we're actually doing is decarbonising is the key policy goal.
So just to simplify that, basically the government have got targets that they've got to reach. They set up an entity, a body, to make sure that they do reach that. That was the SEAI. How they've incentivized people to do that is by giving grants, making grants available to people to motivate people and encourage people to do a retrofit to their home. Retrofit to the home basically helps decarbonisation. Guess what it does as well? It makes your home more comfortable. It improves the value of your home. And so it's a win-win for everybody. But you threw out a lot of quick numbers there, so I'm going to pull you back on them there, Ciaran. So you said that we actually did reach our targets, or we're very close to reaching our targets in 2025, so that's this year.
Yeah.
So just give us a quick bullet point on that there.
That's our first chunk of the sectoral budget. We have about 120,000 B2 or B2 equivalents, with 83,000 actual B2s, and then when you look at the carbon equivalent. So let me just kind of slow that down for your listeners.
So just one thing I'll jump in there and say, so when Ciaran says B2, it means that houses, it's their BER rating. So their BER rating would have been, so it goes from A to F, I think it does. So the BER rating, G. You don't want to be on G. You don't want to be a gangster. Yeah. The G, the old G's, the gangsters. Yeah. But genuinely, if your BER rating was lower than that, it means your house is extremely inefficient, and therefore if you can get it up to a B2 or higher, it means that your house has now become much more energy efficient, and that's what the grants are all about. Am I right in saying that?
You're on the money. And so B2 is a target, it's what they call a cost optimal target. What's the best place to get to that's most efficient in terms of money and spend and things like that and technical ability. So when you get to a B2, you have, I think it's about 125 kilowatt hours per meter squared per year. So that's to do with the energy use of your home per meter squared, right? So you get to a B2, tick box. But, and here's an interesting point, just say some of your homeowners have a G-rated home, which is the worst in the category. If you get from a G-rated home to a C2 rated home, you can actually save somewhere in the region, I think, about 200 kilowatt hours. So you don't actually get a B2 target, but you've saved a whole lot of carbon by improving your home. So that's what we talk about, the B2 equivalent. So there's actual B2s, and then the carbon saved from all the other ones come together. So we're pretty much on track for that for the end of 2025. Now,
so then your second target is 2030.
Yeah.
So the world's going to be a different place in 5 years. Ireland's going to be a much warmer place. We're all going to be sitting at home, nice and cozy. Is that what's the target is to get a massive amount of houses to that BER rating of B2.
Yeah, that you've hit the nail on the head. And see, here's the funny part, and we're all humans, and we think of 2030. Doesn't it sound like a really long, long time away? It's a roundy days, a decade.
I'm going to be about 30 years of age that stage.
Yeah, again.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Plus the vodka and tonic and a bit more.
But here's the rub. It's only slightly over 1,100 working days. Now, this is what scares people. Because you go to meeting and you start talking to people and go, 2030, like, yeah, far off. It's about just over 1,100 working days to 2030. Right, so that's the distance. So people think it's not that far away. If you're into business and all the rest in quarters, right, you've about 22 quarters left to 2030. A lot of the business people listen might be in that space. So we really need to get homeowners going. And then just think about this. Think about the picture having a moment. Himalayas. If you ever like the Himalayas, you know, you like doing the climbing there. You get to base camp. Some people might have been up there. It's at the bottom of the Himalayas. Base camp at the bottom, right? You have 4 more camps to get up to the really high camp before they go for the summit.
So are we at base camp now?
We're getting close to base camp. So here's the rub. Remember I talked about the first bit and the second bit in terms of carbon budgets. We're getting it all laid up for the first bit, getting the companies, getting the skills, getting the money, getting homeowners aware, getting the grants lined up. We now need to get up that mountain. So we're at base camp, or we will be at the end of the year. That next 1,100 days, we have to get up to the top of that mountain. So a serious amount of work to be done. So we know people who are involved in the sector, and you know your friends and colleagues who aren't in Retrofit, you need to get involved in Retrofit and start talking to homeowners. Ferg, you're there the whole time. You're out there on the coal faces. And here's the best part about it, and you touched on it. It's all no regrets work. In other words, if you only want to get your attic insulated and that's all you can do for the moment, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's a step. And everything's a step. And like going up Everest, every step. Some people can do the whole one-stop shop and get the whole lot done in one go. Brilliant. Other people, it doesn't suit their life circumstance at the moment. That's no problem. Just get the one bit done and the next bit.
So let's dive into that. So brilliant to see that we have our targets. So people who are listening are going, and this is the problem, there's a fear, okay? It's like a fear of anything. Until you try it, you'll never know unless you go, as you used to say about Northern Ireland. The reality of it is that pretty much every homeowner out there who's listening to this is in some way eligible for a grant. So for the first time in your life, you could actually get free government money without too much work. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. So what we have is the criteria basically is you're a homeowner and you haven't received a grant before. So when you get online, for example, we've one scheme called a Better Energy Home Scheme, which is individual measures. And it's virtually instantaneous approval. So you get on, you can put in your MPRN, which is the numbers on the top of your electricity bill. And if you haven't been approved for that grant before, previously, pretty much you're approved. And you get on and do it.
I can testify this because I'm actually, and I might have to touch base with you on this one, Ciaran. I am currently, I have applied and I have been approved for my grant to change my boiler from an oil boiler to an air-to-water heat pump. The work has been done and I'm currently submitting the invoice. So basically, I applied online and I got an instantaneous answer to say that I was approved. I'll be honest with you, I was delighted with myself. This is the God's honest truth. So I don't work for the SEAI. I am an independent contractor and I applied this as an ordinary punter. Myself and my wife sat down and did it and we had it done in a few minutes and we got it done. So, Ferg, what questions do you get asked about eligibility? You know, you're out there in the coalface, exactly as Ciaran said. So you're meeting people all the time. And some people may say that these are silly questions. They're not silly questions. What do you hear all the time about eligibility?
Yeah, both of you have mentioned cold faces now, and we're trying to get away from that.
They're actually quite a warm person. They're quite a warm person.
I think just as a general overview of energy upgrades, I mean, the benefits, not only do you reduce running costs and increase comfort, but I know from walking around my estate from late September to October, November, December, the air quality is shocking from the amount of fossil fuels being burnt. That's one side of it. And I know it's very hard to convince a homeowner that to do it for the environment. Luckily enough, we're at the carrot stage of home energy upgrades where there is huge help from SEAI in grant form. I'm not sure whether Ciaran will comment on it, but I would feel that the stick approach is going to come at some stage to achieve targets. I'm not sure what the plans are, but I do think that the help will have to, to achieve these targets, it is a lot of properties to be upgraded from 25 to 2030, we'll say.
Yeah, that's it. You're right, Fergal. There's a lot going on. But just to build out on that point about the benefits. So when we see why do people do an upgrade, they want to save money, which you do. Now, it's one of the hard things with the upgrades is it's hard to say to a homeowner, you will save €655.33 because it depends on how you use your house. So just take the two of you guys there, right? Fergal, you've got exactly the same house, exactly the same BER rating, right? So you've got a B2 and you're going great. You run your house like a sauna, and Pete runs his house like pretty efficiently, uses the rooms as he needs them. Your running costs for a house are fundamentally different, but you will save money. We now know the value of your house goes up quite considerably in terms of the comfort is, and it's hard to put a kind of value on comfort. And what we see, and we see this from the one-stop shop situation, a lot of people that started the process talk about the cost, the payback, this, that, and the other. And when you talk to them after the process, they're all about the comfort. And the third part, fourth point, whatever number it is, we actually did a quantifiable survey there, a study. Survey. It was a very significant study with the London School of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene. They're bright people, those guys. But it was looking at the tangible medical benefits of an upgrade. So we got a population of people that had a kind of respiratory illness, and we upgraded the homes. And using the tropical medicine and hygiene people, they're all about social health, and they've got standardised ways of doing things. And they looked at these people and said their health improved, the health outcomes improved, the number of times they went to the GP decreased, their feelings about themselves and general population increased as a result of doing the retrofit. And because you standardise it, you could say all of these things. So there's a tangible health benefit in terms of indoor air quality. And that's a whole area we're only starting to get aware of. The idea of indoor air quality is against outdoor air quality from doing the retrofit. So apart from the pure payback of the money part of it, there's a whole range of other benefits as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's just like when you're driving out a banger of a car and you think you're a great lad because, you paid for it and you'll keep getting it serviced. And then eventually, and I only did it last year, didn't go for a new car, but I went for a 2-year-old car. The second I sat in the car, I said to myself, why didn't I do this years ago? So much more efficient, so much smoother. I love driving the car that I'm driving now, and I should have done it years ago. And I think that's the thing, and I'm going to bring it back to the eligibility. Like, everybody's entitled to these grants and everybody's eligible for these grants. It's not means tested.
No.
So basically what that means is we don't care what's going on in your life. It's the home that gets the grant. When I say we, it's not me. It's the government trying to get this across the line, rightfully so. So if you are living in a home and you've got God knows what going on in your life, it's not you that's getting surveyed here for to see are you eligible for the grant. It's the home. The home is looked at and the home is assessed. So a home energy assessor will come out and will have a look at the home if that's the route that you need to go, and they will tell you what grants you're available to, and it'll tell you about the energy efficiency of your home. And I always think that's a great start for people. So that's a home energy assessment, which is done by an independent person. There's loads of them, and I think they're on your SEAI website. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. Just want to unpick that a small bit there, Pete, because we have a couple of schemes that are kind of demand-led schemes, such as better energy and one-stop shop. The only eligibility requirement, as you say, is to do with the home, that you haven't got the grant before. We actually have a fully funded scheme as well, which is kind of means tested, and that's the warmer home scheme, and that's where the state actually fully covers the cost of upgrades. But we have on our website, we have a range of contractors who will actually do the works. We have a range of BER assessors come along and help you assess the home. And we've got a kind of a 3-step journey, if you want to call it that. So a lot of people listen to this kind of go, geez, I need to do something. I don't know what I need to do. I'm not an expert. Don't really want to become an expert. And by the way, we don't want you to become an expert. You
don't need to.
You don't need to. You're dead right.
You have one right here.
Yeah, so Ferg, exactly that.
Thanks,
so you
mate.
get on, we say assess. So where are you? So some people might have the BER because we've about 1 million of them on the database, and if you haven't done anything significant at home, it's probably still okay. Where is your BER rating at the moment? So you a B, a C, a D, a G. There's an advisory report that comes to those ones. So it says on a high level, here's what you might want to do. So you assess. They always say insulate. So get the fabric of the home right. And then the third part is the renewables that you talked about, getting a heat pump and also solar. Things. There's another point as well, and just maybe to bring it in, and not a lot of people, and there should be more people aware of this, but we have the government-backed low-cost loan scheme, the Home Energy Upgrade Loan Scheme. That is a government-backed loan scheme run through a lot of credit unions, the main pillar banks, and the rates, the interest rates you can get from that loan scheme are approximately half, if not better, than the standard loan rates you get for a discretionary loan. And the conditions around that loan are pretty good. It's up to 10 years, up to 75,000 euros unsecured, as low as 5,000 euros can get you the loan. And basically, it's really tailored around supporting people do their retrofit journey. And if you went out into the bank, just get a different loan for whatever home upgrade or a holiday or a car, you'd be paying 6, 7, 8%. The loan schemes, the banks, anywhere between 3 and 3.5%. So it's really good value in terms of getting money out to do the retrofit.
And again, that information is on your website and you can check it out. I got a loan of a tenner off Ferg there a couple of weeks ago. And the interest rate is about 50%. Unbelievable.
You gave me back a £15 note, did he?
No, I was actually just going to comment that that's a specifically designed loan scheme for home energy upgrades. But there's also a background loan. We'll say lots of people are getting mortgages. The higher your BER or BER, I've heard it being called lots of things, but your building energy rating are, the lower your interest rate can be. So if you buy what we would call a doer-upper, there's a huge benefit in achieving an A rating because your interest will drop. When you're talking about 25, 30-year mortgages, there's a huge saving there.
Well, that's a really good point as well. And thanks for bringing that. Some people, depending on what you're doing, they might try and remortgage and go for a green mortgage. And I know one of the pillar banks, they give you a little notch. Every BER rating you go up, you get a better rate on your mortgage. And some people are sitting down and are looking at this and saying, well, what happens if I combine a low-cost loan to do initial works to bring the BER rating of my home up that gets me onto a better, more favourable interest rate for my mortgage? So there's kind of a bit of cleverness going on there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, again, I like to keep it simple, okay? I am but a simple man. So BER is building energy rating, okay? So every home in the country gets that. You don't have to apply for that. It's there. You just need to understand what it is. How you get that done is through a home energy assessment, which is basically an independent assessor that will come to your home, will have a look at the house, and he'll give you a printout which basically gives you the information about your home, and therefore you can sit down. Me and Ferg could be a couple there where we sit down and we check
add
out.
to that, because we're going to simplify it even further, because there is a difference between a BER and a HEA, which is a home energy assessment.
Yeah.
So the home energy assessment, I would say everyone in the country should have one, whether you go an individual route or whether you go all together, all in one go with a one-stop shop. It's invaluable information.
Yeah.
You're getting a roadmap to show what each measure will achieve for you. And like we would always state the fabric first, which you're after mentioning already, Ciaran, and it shows you if you insulate your walls, you'll go from whatever you are to wherever you're going, you know. So it's very good. That roadmap is hugely important for people to make educated decisions.
There's a great point there, yeah, and thanks Pete and Ferg, yeah. So the BER is a requirement if you build or if you buy, sell or lease a home, and you get it for a new home as well. So there's about 1 million among the database. You're not obligated to get a BER unless you're buying, selling or leasing your home. But just for your listeners, be very clear, the BER, and there's a grant available, and we have a whole range of BER assessors on our website. A much more involved, much more detailed survey of our home is the home energy assessment. And I'd liken it somewhat to say getting, like, for example, a consultant engineer out your house to do the full energy upgrade, because sometimes there's a bit of a mismatch between people's ideas, what it is and how much it costs and things like that. So if I said to you, Pete, and you'd know this from your building works, if I said I'm getting a consultant engineer out to the house or structural engineer, people would be prepared, you know, the engineer coming out from structure, they know it costs a few quid. The home energy assessment is the energy version of that. They go down into your home, not the ones in the street, not the general, in really, really significant detail. So on that home energy assessment package, a part of that is doing the BER. So to listeners and viewers, if you have nothing, the first thing to do is get that BER piece done. That's a simpler one. That tells you where you're at, a B, a C, a D, a G, whatever, and then high level the next steps. And then you can consider if you want to go down a bit further and get the home energy assessment, which is a bit more technical done.
I got it done in my own home. It was done very quickly. It was very efficient. They came in, had a quick look around the house, but detailed look at it.
Not that quick, I hope.
No, it wasn't that quick. No, but like all joking aside, it was really good. It was really valuable, and I know what I'm talking about. Like I'm in the industry, but I actually really got a bit of quality and a bit of information out of it, and I was able to actually then use it to sit down with my wife and explain it to her in a very simplified way. And it really helped us make decisions. And I think that's it. So again, just for people at home, you know, it's a home energy assessment that gets done independently. And Ciaran just said it, there's actually a grant available for that as well. Is it €350? Is that correct?
That's it. Yeah, the Byrne bit.
Yeah, and then you get from that, you will be also, you get your BER rating from that. And then the next step then is to see what can you, like, you can make your decision as to what you do, whether you go through a one-stop shop, which is what Byrne and Ferg will do, or you can do the individual grants. And if you're, you know, the criteria matches up, you can do the warmer homes.
You'll have to go through a one-stop shop for the home energy assessment, but the point to make is that, which comes up a lot, you're not obliged to continue on and do any work from it's a standalone grant of €350 to provide you with the information to make a decision.
Yeah, and there's nothing forced on you as well, by the way, which I think is very important. Nobody's going to turn up and do an assessment and they go, now that I've been here, you've got to do this.
And important to emphasise that you can go to one-stop shop for the home energy assessment, and you can use that assessment to price around among the other one-stop shops. So that's important, that you're not stuck with the one you go for the assessment for.
Okay, let's take the next step. So we now have our home energy assessment done. We have our BER rating. We've sat down, we've decided we're going to improve the energy efficiency of our home. We're going to do it in this way. So who does it? Can I just call Larry or Pete or whoever? Who's the contractor that I then need to contact?
Yeah, that's a great point, Pete. You know, when we speak to the bosses at home, the key one for us is to have a registered contractor, right? And when we are registered, they're on our website, they're registered, they're taxed, they're insured, and they're capable and competent to do the measure that they're talking about doing. You can definitely get on the phone or the blower, look at the yellow pages if it still exists, and get Johnny from down the road. The issue of getting Johnny from down the road, and I get a lot of this, and we got an awful lot of this when we started a one-stop shop first and things like that, is, you know, he's way cheaper. That may be so, but it's highly likely / virtual certainty that they're not adhering to standards. Now, anybody listening out there, can anybody, and they won't be able to tell me, but I suspect most of them don't know what a good attic insulation job looks like. And they certainly don't know what a poor attic insulation job looks like. And one of the real concerns for us in these kind of ones is, if you do a poor job, it's not the following day or the day after or the month after that you find out. It could be a year later, it could be 2 years later when you've got that mould or dry rot or whatever it might be. The contractor's long gone. So it's the old adage, if it's kind of too cheap to be true, it probably is too cheap to be true. And I know I grew up here in suburban Dublin. Years ago we used to get fellas knocking on the door saying, you know, we'll take all your rubbish out and we'll charge you 20 quid, and it was great, you know, great value. 25 quid to bring it to the dump, but this kind gentleman's doing for less than that price. You have to kind of wonder, where is it going? Now, it's not all contractors like that.
No, I'd like to step in and say, look, there's, like, I represent my industry, and the industry is excellent. The quality of tradesmanship and tradespersonship is phenomenal in our country. But the reality of it is, if you get what you pay for. And that's simply it. And I think you've summed it up very well. It's actually very hard to know what a good and a bad job is unless you actually really know the difference between the two. And again, I don't think it's actually that much cheaper to go for someone who's not registered these days, because there is no such thing as cheap construction work these days. But the difference between getting a registered contractor, and you can get a registered contractor by going to the SEAI website and clicking on the link, and it shows you all of the registered contractors. You can get prices off 2 or 3 of them. You can know, the world is your oyster in that situation. There is absolutely no obligation until you agree to do it, and then you apply for the grant, and then you get the work done. So you must select your contractor, who must be registered, and you must apply for the grant before the work is done. Is that correct?
That is spot on, Pete. And you're dead right, like in terms of contractors and things like that. You know, we say always price around, right? And talking to people between the good and the bad contractors, like, there's plenty of good people out there, but what's happening is, when you're a registered contractor, you're qualified to do the measure. You're also putting in accordance with various rules and regulations, right? And so there's a quality scheme as to what a good looks like and what kind of things the contractor needs to adhere to. And then we also have an inspection process at the other end of that. So they're all kind of reasons why you would go for a registered contractor.
Pete hates the word inspection.
Ciaran, I'm gonna. We're not going to fall out, but I'm going to be totally honest. The SEAI.
This could be the end of the podcast very quickly now.
The SEAI are a pain in the arse when it comes to inspection as a contractor, because I'm going to be honest. They are very detailed. I've got registered contractors to come and do work for me, and it gets inspected, and it's very detailed in terms of, if there is literally not one piece of lagging on a certain pipe, if there's a valve not at a certain height on a heat pump, I basically get a notification, the homeowner gets a notification, and the contractor gets a notification, and they have to come back and they have to fix the work. Now look, again, as contractors, you know, get to do the work, they know the standards that are reached. So the long story short is, yes, the work is inspected and the work is of exceptional quality, because it does get inspected, and you do get pulled up, because basically the contractor, if they keep on making mistakes, they get penalised for it, basically, don't they? You know?
So it's working anyway. That's the key point I'm hearing.
It is working.
But I take that point. There is a sweet spot between finding.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we actually, funny enough, we work a lot with contractors. We're taking a lot of feedback back, and we're upgrading, and we're moving a lot more towards quality systems of contractors. So it's not just about the one job in front of you, but how do you approach a job in general, you know? But that's fair feedback. But that's really there to protect the homeowner and make sure they're right. Because unfortunately, when things, they do go wrong, and we've seen a lot in the UK where it goes wrong, it can go fairly spectacular. And Pete, in your work, I have no doubt, in your day job, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Absolutely. I get calls all the time, and I go, and a lot of the time it's good, well-intended work done incorrectly. Usually the wrong products are used, or, you know, just the wrong way of approaching a piece of work can have catastrophic effects. And that's not scaremongering, that's just a pure fact. Like, the technology in construction has massively evolved. I started off, there was no high vises, and it was all simple tools. Now you've got huge health and safety in a very good way, and the technology in tools alone is phenomenal, but the technology in materials has gone through the roof. If you use the wrong material in your home, it can have it will have a very good U value, which is the way that it's a way of giving a rating for the material for its insulation value. I'm saying that wrong, but you get the idea. If you use the wrong material, even though it's got a very high U value, it can actually have quite a negative effect on your home. So look, I don't want to try and get too technical on it, but it's very simple. Get your BR rating, apply for your grant, get a registered contractor, and the chances are that you can be 100% sure that it's going to be done correctly and that you're going to get your grant. Is that fair to say?
That's really it, yeah. And last year we did 54,000 homes last year, which is a fair number. We're going through the gate of, and the vast majority of those people had a good, really straightforward journey with a good contractor. And what we're saying is, don't let that be the end of it. Build this beautiful relationship, this enduring relationship, because a lot of people, not everybody, can do the one-stop shop. So if you do the one bit this year, maybe a year or two time do the next bit and the next bit, because we're on this journey to 2030, because the end of it all is 2030, and this 1,100 working days and carbon reduction, that's what it's all about. So having that enduring relationship with the contractor or provider is a really good thing to do.
Quick question for you, Ferg. So you are that contractor that we've been talking about. So you were involved in this on a day-to-day basis. I'm involved in general construction, and I touch and I am receiving my own grant, but you're dealing with this on a daily basis. How have you found working with the SEAI? How have you found the grants system coming in? Are you finding that it's helping people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've worked on, I'm going to make myself feel old here now, but I've been working on with SEAI on various programs and schemes since about 2014, I'd say. And the development of those schemes has improved year on year. I would find the launch of the One Stop Shop program or scheme is a great opportunity for any homeowner to apply for. It's a very simplified version. I suppose it's making you achieve a B2 or minimum of a B2 rating, and it's making you do it all in one go. Making is the wrong word.
It's assisting you. It's
There's
motivating you. It's supporting you.
But there's more incentives for the one-stop shop.
Yeah.
But the one thing I would ask here is, when I started working with SEAI, they were pictured as this huge organisation, but I remember at the time they were actually pretty small. And now your growth is there's a lot of staff in SEAI now. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that ye are putting the resources in place to achieve these targets. So yeah.
Sorry, Ferg. This is not an SEAI fan club here, by the way, as well. I'll be honest with you. You know, it might sound like it. We're here just honestly to ask the questions, and that's why we got Ciaran in, because he's so high up the food chain there. So let's talk about the SEAI then. So what is the key focus of the entity, and where is this all going?
Yeah, well, that's a great one, actually. It's just, and much of all I think is important. There's 4 directors within the SEAI, and I lead up one of them, and we have a CEO, William Walters, our CEO, leads the whole show. I have a colleague who's doing an awful lot of work, and it's not unlinked to this as well, as on the commercial and public sector side of it. Yep. I have another colleague who works on the research and policy insights, and then we have a colleague on the corporate services, the whole finance and governance piece. On the research and policy insights, they're future looking. They're looking at the policies, the things we need to do, and get into the food chain, if you want. So my colleague then is on the commercial, public sector and transport side, Declan, and they're supporting on the transfer of EV grants and EVs, and they're really starting to build out on the commercial side, because we've pretty much as much to do on the commercial side and the public sector side as we do on the residential side. We're just a little bit ahead. So the focus in terms of growth, numbers wise, when Ferg started with us first, probably 60 people, whatever it might have been. We're up in about 240 people at the moment, 250, and we've a few external contractors. But the budget for my section alone this year, you're talking just shy of 600 million euros, which is a pretty significant chunk of change that we want to support homeowners with.
So for this year, for 1 year.
This year, yeah.
For 2025.
Yeah, exactly. So
600 million.
Slightly under 600 million, and it's due to go up again next year. So in other words, the government's putting significant money behind this to allow us to do the things, to allow us to kind of grow the schemes at pace. And actually, in the European context, so this doesn't really make it, homeowners and listeners won't see this, but we have to turn up at the European meetings and all the rest of it. And we're in many cases way ahead of the curve in terms of the ambition of what we're doing and the kind of groundwork we've put in place to get this job done. Because right the way across Europe, every country in Europe has to do this, because here's an interesting part. We have the targets. Right, the targets are put into Irish law, and if you decide, the government decides, we'll change the law because they can do that. Well, they're part of European directives which you signed up to. So unless they change the law and leave Europe in Brexit style, we've got these targets, so we have to achieve them. And there's been some debate in the media there in the last couple of weeks about what happens at the back end of those targets if we don't achieve it. And it's either a bigger fine or some such kind of thing. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about now. And we're putting resources in now to build the industry. And this podcast, Pete, and people like you saying the awareness of it, and your journey on the heat pump is incredible. You get on, it's virtually instantaneous. You get the heat pump in, and it's $6.5 grand in your back pocket to help you in the journey. So that's pretty significant stuff.
So genuinely, that's why myself and Ferg have set this podcast up, because we want to educate people. We want to make it transparent. Look, there's probably a lot of terminology even that we've discussed today, even though we're trying to simplify it, that people probably are, finding a little bit hard to get their heads around. Go to the SEAI website, have a look at that. We're not only going to be talking about the SEAI on this podcast, we're going to be getting ministers on board, we're going to be getting people who've had energy upgrades done, we're going to be getting lots of different people, maybe people from the industry who are other contractors, stuff like that. So we're going to have lots of different people on the podcast.
And we'll definitely do one on the business and commercial side as well.
100%.
Very important,
That's very important. So basically what Ferg is saying there is it's not just about your home. If you're a business owner, it's how can you improve the energy efficiency of your business premises, and how can you get the good feedback off that. So huge amount of budget there for 1 year. Let's talk about where the end goal is. How much do you think that's going to cost to get to that point? How much is going to be spent on homes and businesses between now and 2030?
That's a really good question. So the budget
money.
It's money, I suppose, and it's about how much kind of homeowners want to put into their own homes and much government can support and things like that. Look, we've seen, you guys know it, you're in the front end of the construction sector. We've seen over 2 years, particularly after post-COVID, a real rise in construction prices. We're seeing that it's kind of level off. It's not really coming back as such, leveling off. But here's an interesting one. The European Union have calculated something in the region of 85% of the buildings that are going to be around in 2050 are here now. A good one for your listeners.
Say that again?
About 85% of the buildings that are going to be around in 2050 are here now.
Okay.
So they have to be retrofitted. So one of the things I say, if you're ever driving down the quays in Dublin or walking, we're not driving anymore, we're walking or on a scooter or something, right? We're going down the quays in Dublin and look at those beautiful Georgian buildings all along the quays.
Yeah.
They're there since the 1780s, 1800s.
Yeah.
They'll be there in 2050, right? Go out a lot of suburbs, the houses and the suburban estates built in the 70s, they'll be there probably in 2050. So we got to start thinking about every one of those. So it is going to take a chunk of money. It's going to take a lot of public will, a lot of hard labour, and probably the old phrase I always use, what got us here won't get us there. So in our world, we're going to be tweaking things, adding things, changing things, refocusing things insofar as we can, because it's not one seamless, going up that kind of that Everest I talked about at the start of the meeting. It's just not one seamless journey up the mountain. There's going to be all sorts of pitfalls and crevasses and whatnot, but we just have to keep adjusting and going forward, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
Wow, adventure, and I love it. Ferg, a quick question to yourself. Do you think that the public have got a little bit more educated? Because if you would have said the word heat pump to somebody 4 years ago, they probably would have thought you were talking about something in a car. And again, BR, I know we're explaining it and we're breaking it down here, but I think there is a certain amount of education out there, but I think there's still a little bit of confusion. And, tell us what your thoughts are in terms of where we're at in terms of the public and our understanding of the whole retrofit situation.
Yeah, and look, it's down to awareness from homeowners. I think when I started out, I suppose the number one question is, what is a heat pump? It's like that ad for the tracker mortgage. Yeah. But it was the same thing. I mean, it was the most common question that came up. It's very rarely asked now. And without being another fan club member of SEAI, it is down to an awful lot of work and trying to get the message out there
Yeah.
from both the SEAI and all the contractors involved. Like as one-stop shops are constantly providing information nights, trying to get the message out to homeowners of what is available to them, you know. And it's actually funny that you mentioned Europe. I was saying to Pete before we came in that our European counterparts look at us to see what we're doing because we're ahead of the game. And he didn't believe me.
Yeah.
He didn't believe
No, I
me.
didn't actually.
He said we couldn't be ahead. But it is a fact that, and I know that they're very interested in the one-stop shop model because I've been contacting myself over it. And without going down the fan club route again, that's a big achievement for SEI to be leading the way in terms of, and homeowners might know that's where we are.
Lots of people don't see that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to because it's not their business. But we're in Europe. Every country in Europe is doing the same thing. We're all trying to decarbonise. We're all trying to retrofit and all the rest. And the kind of structures we put in place here have really helped. And Pete, you're dead right that what is a heat pump moment? It's like to track. It is so like to track a mortgage. And even in my time in the SEI, there was a time that you said you were involved in retrofit. And I always remember the pitch on a Saturday morning. People kind of sidle away from you and kind of move down the other end of the pitch. Now you get people coming up to you and saying, "What do I do? How do I do it? Heat pump." Do you know what and actually, funny enough, you'll see this really anecdotally in practice when we go to the Ideal Home Show, which is the kind of the real front face, the shop floor for our kind of work.
Yep.
And it's on twice a year. There used to be a time people noodle up and they'd ask a bit of this and a bit of that. Now they're coming in with really detailed questions, really specific. They want to know. They've done their research and they're checking out, is this right or that right, whatever. Much more informed. But look, that's only part of the journey. There's still a big distance to go on the heat pump front. So there's a kind of a thing in environmental journeys, a 4-step journey. And if it can flesh this out into a big book, I'm going to write it and retire. But basically the way it pans out for environmental change is called aware, care, responsibility and action. So we want somebody to do something, and we want them to do something different that's going to require different things and different behaviours. You need to make them aware of it, what it is. You need to make them care about it a little bit. Now you're not going to care too much about your heating system, let's be honest about it. Much easier to care about a cuddly animal or whatever, a penguin or something like that, or a panda bear. But caring about your heating system, so being aware that actually I have an impact here, right? Then you move from that into responsibility. Actually my behaviours, my individual behaviours impact on the societal whole, and then you're into action. So when you get aware, care, response, they're a little trajectory, and all of these behavioural change pieces follow the same. So tell people what a heat pump is. Tell them what it does. Tell them why it's the right thing to do. Tell them why it suits them. Tell them why putting in a heat pump can help them on their journey. And actually, it's doing the right thing as well. And actually, there's a chunk of money to support you doing it.
Yeah, look, I'd throw the caveat in there as well. There's nothing perfect, because if everybody was to suddenly be on electricity, there's a huge electrical shortage coming, and people say, "Oh yeah, but it's inefficient to create electricity." There's huge questions out there, and people are right to ask those questions. But the reality of it is, in my opinion, this is like it's a win-win situation. Like if you're able to get a grant, which is pretty much free money from the government, to invest it in your home, you're therefore improving the quality of your own home, your own environment at home. It's going to make your house more energy efficient, which basically means that it's going to cost less to run. So therefore, your electrical or your solid fuel or whatever it is, your fuel bills will come down lower, and you are doing your little bit for the environment. So there's lots of wins there as well. And I just think it's important. Like, I know we live in an era where there's an awful lot of conspiracy theories, and people always think, oh, them they're all in cahoots and all that type of stuff. And you know what? There probably is stuff like that going on. There's a dark web going on. I don't know anything about that, but I do know that when I do an energy upgrade to someone's home, the next time I walk into that house, it's a much more comfortable environment. And if they can get a grant for it, which reduces the cost for it, they're getting the benefits of that. So for me, I do think that the time is now, and people do need to start taking the action, because again, another thing that I found about free money is it doesn't always last forever. Something can come along, maybe Trump will do something mad, or something will happen where the grants may not be as available, you know what I mean? Because we may have to put it back into the Kilkenny hurling team or something like that, Ferg, do you know what I mean?
Please do.
Yeah. So I suppose, look, Ciaran, we have you here. We're not going to hang around for too much longer. Give us a bullet point version. Sorry, I'll say that again. Give us a bullet point version of what you would like a business owner or a homeowner to do after this conversation. What's their next steps? What should they do to get the maximum benefits from the SEAI for them personally and maybe then the ripple effect of the positive stuff that comes out.
That's great, Pete. I thought for a moment you were going to ask me, was I running for president?
No,
and I said, no.
Me and Conor McGregor are going against each other.
I'm going to rule myself out. Just officially here on the podcast, I'm ruling myself out. But that's a really great question. Get on the website. Because there's people out there with a range of skills, experience, knowledge. A lot of people don't do it because, I don't know, and it's hassle. And we have a really simplistic website. Get on the website if you're a homeowner. Get on the website if you're a business, and we'll help you on the journey. Assess, insulate, renewables. And there's contractors there. There's little videos. There's little cheat sheets of what to have, what not to have, and all the rest of it. It's on the website. And that's what I do. Get on the website.
Excellent stuff. When you're on the website, what do I do? Do I check my eligibility? What's the next step? I'm on the website. I've got lots of information. Tell me what button do I press? What's next?
Yeah, that's a great one, actually. So first of all, if you have not got a BER done, the first thing I say is go and get a BER done. And there's a list of contractors on the website that'll go and do your BER. And that's like in any journey, you want to know, where am I starting from? Yep. Right. So if and you might say, God, I have an old house, it was built in the 70s, don't quite know what it is. Daddy do. Get a BER. You now know it's a G-rated house or an F-rated house. That's fine. You have an advisory report that comes with that, and that gives you a high level. Here's the kind of things you might want to do, right? And gives you a little kind of a high level indicative piece around the price. So let's say you get a BER, and it says you've got a D3 rated home, okay? And it says you might want to think about insulation. So you got an insulation, you get on the website, you have 3 types of wall insulation, depending on the construction of your house, and the BER will tell you that. If you have a solid wall insulation, you can't pump it, there's nothing to pump. So you can either put external wrap or internal wrap, and there's support and the grants around that. There's contractors that'll do that. If you turn around, the next thing we need to do is you need to look at air tightness. We look at that. And then sometimes when you look at windows and doors, on the one-stop shop, there's windows and doors as well, and they're available through the one-stop shop only. And then if you decide I want to put on renewables, we have the contractors of that on the website. So really it's about getting that BER. If you have your BER in your hand, right, and you know it's a D, you can have a look at the website. But there's also, I would say, have a good search around the internet, because there's other tools available that allow you to kind of build up your retrofit and say, well, if I did this, what would I look at? You know, some of the providers, have a look at the banks and things like that. They have calculators on their website for loans. Right, so you can say, well, how will I fund it? But the key one is get that BER, have it there. The advisory report gives you a high level on what you do, and then have a look on the website, see what grants are available, what contractors are there. Some of the other websites can have a little noodle and say, well, if I externally wrap the house, what would it cost and what would the uplift be? You know, and you can have a play around with those, and then you've got loan finance. So it's all there in front of you. You can do like of an evening, half an hour on the website of whatever evening, and you'll get a fair chunk of the way on your journey.
What do you reckon, Ferg? Would you agree to that?
I just want to add one thing, because it comes up over and over again, is the homeowners that would say to me, I'm going to hang on because these grants are going to get better. There's something going to change. And I would say to them that I don't know what the price of a sheet of plywood would be in 3 years, but the way things are going, it's now is the time, is my answer to everything. I think now is the time, no matter when you're starting.
So without a shadow of a doubt, because the old joke is, when's the best time to do it? About 15 years ago. When's the next best time? Right now. Yeah. And this is the important, critical point. It's no regret stuff. Every single thing you do is an improvement. So even if you, even attic insulation, there's still a large number of homes out there that don't have this suitable depth of attic insulation. That'll make an instant difference and save you money, and there's a grant available for it. So if that's all you did, that's perfect. But you're right, some people go, oh, it's too much hassle, back to school, holidays, You know, we tend to find excuses not to do it. Now is a good time to do it. Like, I know when this podcast goes out, but we just had a period of extraordinary rain and sunshine, all this kind of mad climatic conditions in the middle of summer. You know, if that doesn't tell you something, you know, I don't know what will.
Totally agree with you. Again, it's a bit like people when they're buying their house. When's the best time to buy a house? Yeah. It's when you, in your life situation, can actually, do it. And people that would have bought their houses 15 years ago, at the time, they would have been, I don't think we can afford this. It's really pushing ourselves to the limit. Now they're at the point where they're going, God, when I look back now, we're in a much different situation. Yeah. And now is the time to start improving your home situation. So look, huge amount of information there, huge amount of detail. Ciaran, thanks very much for coming on board. Ciaran doesn't get off the hook right now. Any questions that you think that myself and Ferg, well, Ferg probably didn't ask enough questions there, but any questions that weren't asked today, reach out to us through social media. Me and Ferg have the hotline straight through to the White House here. We'll be able to ask Ciaran and anybody else in the SEAI, and we've got huge insider information in the industry. Do not be afraid to ask us any questions that you want through all of the platforms, the social media platforms. The Behind the Walls podcast is here to make this transparent. It's to help you improve the energy efficiency in your home and to help to understand the process and to make the decision to go for it. Isn't that right, Ferg?
Absolutely, yeah. And look, I just want to thank Ciaran for coming in. And anyone that sees him driving around, he doesn't have that 600 million on him. just in case anyone thinks he has a boot full of cash. Yeah. But it is available, and this is what we're about, as Pete just said. It's about awareness. It's about showing homeowners what can be achieved, what's available to them, and maximising those grants that are available. And why not, Pete?
Why not? The time is now. Ciaran, you're a legend. Thanks very much for coming on board.
Guys.
It's great to have you, and tune in to our next episode coming soon for the Behind the Walls podcast with Pete and Ferg. We're going to delve into lots of different areas of the industry. Today we focused on the SEAI grants. We're going to be talking about how you can use those grants, who you use them with, lots more stuff coming up. So make sure you like, follow, tell your mother, tell your brother, tell everybody about this podcast. Any questions, send them in. Over and out.